HydroGraph Clean Power Inc. It trades on the OTCQB under the symbol HGRAF and on the CSE under the symbol HG. It's a leading producer of pristine graphene using an explosion synthesis process, which allows for exceptional purity, low energy use, and identical batches. Please welcome President and CEO Kjirstin Breure. Welcome to the conference today.
Thank you, and thank you for having me. So to get started, as mentioned, HydroGraph is a leading graphene producer, and we do this with a patented detonation synthesis process. So effectively, we produce the highest quality graphene, and we believe that's provable in the industry at the greatest cost efficiency. So effectively, what we do is we create an explosion with hydrocarbon gases. So if you look at the image of our reactor, those inside those cylinders are carbon steel chambers. So we pump in acetylene, that's our favorite hydrocarbon gas, with oxygen. We have electrodes at the top and bottom of that chamber. And there are, of course, 4 chambers within that reactor. We ignite the electrodes. It destabilizes the molecules. The temperature shoots up, as it's, of course, an explosion, to 2500 Kelvin. It rips apart the acetylene molecules, and all of the carbon that was in the acetylene gas gets crystallized into graphene powder. So quite simple in theory. It gives us a number of advantages. We believe it's the temperature and the purity of our feedstock that gives us the performance that we get from our graphene. But importantly, we are extremely cost efficient, and we have virtually no energy input, as of course it is an exothermic reaction. So the acetylene is bringing its energy with it. So we're very, very happy, with this technology. We've been working on this for a number of years, which is really spun out from decades of research done by Dr. Kjirstin. But importantly, commercialization has already begun. We are actively producing tonnage quantities of graphene. We're speaking with about 50 active customer engagements. And I would say between 5 and 7 of those opportunities are looking for very, very large quantities. And large quantity for us would be more than 1,000 metric tons of annual consumption of graphene. I think the average customer is likely looking for it between in the tens of tons or hundreds of tons. And so for us, without disclosing details, 1 ton of graphene sells for in the hundreds of thousands of dollars. And we have different types. The standard graphene that we produce from that one explosion is what we call FGA1, and we have a number of what we call derivatives, basically just increasing the conductivity, adding chemical groups, and so on. And that can really bring the price, significantly higher. So these units, so this one unit is about 2 meters by 2 meters. Again, it produces 10 metric tons annually. We can build additional units in a matter of months. And this is a very low capital intensive process or build for us. So we are extremely efficient with our capital, and everything is completely patented. On our executive team, so myself, Kjirstin Breure, President and CEO, I have a master's in material science and engineering. I was also the first employee of the company, so I joined in the beginning of 2020. We, at that point, did not have a facility or really even a team. So we've really put a lot of work into where we're at today. You can see Ranjith Divigalpitya. He was at 3M for 3 decades, specializing in graphene-like carbon coatings. You can see Stephen Corkill. He is our VP operations. He has designed and built all of the high purine units that we have today. And then, of course, the brilliant Dr. Kjirstin, who's our VP R&D. He has effectively invented everything that we have since commercialized. So back to graphene. What is graphene? It's quite simple, really, to think about. It is just pure carbon atoms. And of course, this is just one atomic sheet. If you think of graphite, that would effectively be billions and billions of layers of graphene that are stuck together. So all we're doing is we're releasing that few layer sheet, which we call graphene. We, of course, get that in the explosion. And once you get down to the nano size, you have all of these superlative qualities. So graphene in its true form, in its nano form, is the strongest and most conductive material that has ever been discovered. And because it's made of carbon, and of course our natural world is made of carbon, it makes it very versatile. So graphene can positively influence virtually any material that you can imagine, whether it's batteries, carbon fiber, plastics, biosensors. You can even use it internally for drug delivery systems. This is truly going to revolutionize basically every industry. And because it's a relatively young material, there's so much more that we still have to uncover. To compare it to similar materials, so silicon took more than 50 years to commercialize. I think it was closer to 60. Carbon fiber took 50. So graphene is only 20 years young, if you will. It was discovered in 2004 at the University of Manchester. So I think all of our brightest days, I think, are ahead of us. And we learn every day better how to use graphene. What makes us different is really the quality of our material. And that is, again, all due to our patented detonation process. So this is a slightly dated study. This was published in 2017. We, of course, did not participate. But the Journal of Advanced Materials published research that they had done on 300 different companies claiming to produce graphene. And that study found that there is almost no high quality graphene in the market as defined by the ISO, that no company produces over 50% graphene content, with a majority producing less than 10%, effectively meaning that companies are producing graphite powder and not graphene. Though this is dated, I think this still rings true when you look at the industry, when we're speaking with customers, when we're just hearing from other industry partners. This is really rampant. Not only do companies produce graphene that doesn't match their data sheets, what they have disclosed online, but multiple batches. If you order multiple batches from the same company, the graphene does not match. HydroGraph does not face any of these challenges. We're completely synthetic. Every single time you turn on the machine, it is exactly the same graphene. Every time we've scaled up that unit, we started with a 4-liter unit, and now the chamber sizes that you see in the reactor, those are 4 70-liter units. Every single time we've done that, it has been the same exact type of graphene. We produce 99.8% pure carbon content graphene. What that means is that the carbon content is 99.8, but it is 100% graphene. And that tiny, tiny amount of oxygen we have actually strongly contributes to our conductivity. We've also been tested as pure by numerous labs worldwide and verified as a genuine graphene producer by the Graphene Council. And again, just to go back to our process, I always want to clarify, we do not sell the units. We only sell graphene. We are in the business of producing tonnage volumes of graphene and selling this to customers worldwide. And again, we're speaking with more than 50 customers, and between 5 and 7 are looking for in excess of 1,000 tons annually as a consumption. And this is a great system for us because we're using commodity gases that are readily available. I would say the hotspots in North America would, of course, be Alberta, Texas, Louisiana. There is abundant acetylene. It is a relatively low cost, but yet highly volatile gas. The volatility is really what gives us the high performance graphene that we have. As a result, we can produce these units in a matter of months. And so we are not only very low cost, we have the lowest environmental footprint, but more importantly, we are scalable. We have a modular unit that allows us to scale with customer demand. Unlike other graphene companies or other companies in general, we don't have a CapEx build of $100 million plus before we can really see revenue. We will be able to put these additional units online as our pipeline grows. And so to dive into the ESG angle of the story, you can see detonation synthesis clocking in at 2.7 megajoules per kilogram, and that is the energy demand for producing graphene. You can compare this in terms of the general industry most closely with chemical exfoliation. That would be your nano explorers of the world, your black swans. Or our closest competitors would be closer to microwave plasma. That's the other dominant synthetic production method at 180 megajoules. And that would be your GMGs, your Levidian, your Lightens. And so not only do we have a massive benefit with just the energy demand, we also don't use any chemicals or solutions in the process, and we have no greenhouse gas emissions. So any technical person listening to this is probably wondering what happens to the oxygen and the hydrogen, because we pump in acetylene, that is C2H2 plus oxygen. All of the carbon becomes graphene. The oxygen and hydrogen are exhausted as syngas. That is a commodity gas. It is not a greenhouse gas. And at scale, we will have an offtake agreement for that. So even our waste is not really waste. That is a valuable commodity product. So not only does our graphene help the mechanical properties of different materials, but this actually allows customers to use less. On average, by adding a very, very small amount, less than 1%, we're often at 0.001% graphene added to various materials, we can see double-digit performance improvements. And we might be able to improve a plastic by perhaps 30% for strength. And that allows a customer to use 30% less plastic, which obviously has a significant carbon emission reduction. This slide I always like to start with, if you're looking at the market opportunity here, it is truly massive. It is too large for any one company, especially a smaller company like us, to really tackle. But it does point to the overall opportunity. Graphene, again, being fully comprised of carbon, is very, very versatile. We can use it with lubricants, composites, coatings, cement, energy storage, and lots more that's not listed here. And every one of these opportunities presents, a massive portion of the market. So what we are doing, because of course we have limited time, attention, and dollars, we are focused on the fastest to get to market, of course, to deliver revenue to our shareholders. With that in mind, we are heavily focused on composites and coatings. Composites are great, especially if it's not a load-bearing component, because that would be subject to some regulatory approvals. And as unsexy it is, if you look at industrial plastic packaging, that is a massive market opportunity. These customers are often looking for thousands of metric tons, just graphene for annual consumption. But we solve an immediate need. Not only do we lightweight, so they're going to save on transportation costs, material costs, they're going to lower their carbon emissions. We make it easier for them to recycle that plastic. And then I think coatings is a really good talking piece, just because we can really exploit the more novel attributes of graphene. Coatings are also great because if it's not, again, a load-bearing component or something that's subject to regulations, this is more in addition to an existing piece, so it is much faster to get to market. We can, of course, still go for lightweighting. We can go for anti-corrosive properties, UV resistance, EMI shielding. There's really a host of things that we can do to kind of tune the graphene to get the traits that we want. And then to just quickly gloss over the rest, lubricants we're very interested in, but this moves a lot slower than some of the other opportunities, just kind of the nature of oil and gas, but we have excellent data here. And that would be the same for cement and concrete. These are slower to move. It's obviously something that we use in building materials, so it's subject to a host of regulatory approvals. This is something that at scale we will put more attention towards, but of course we want to deliver revenue as quickly as possible. So this is on the back burner for now. And it's something that we will move forward with the right partner. Energy storage, again, we have really, really fantastic data here, but because really the minimum development cycle is 9 months for most batteries or most energy storage devices, this is something that we're going to wait until we have revenue from composites and coatings. And so how we tackle the market is really, again, we are focused on our primary markets, composites, coatings, and in a close third, batteries. And this is where we devote our time and attention in the lab. All of this work is done in Manchester, where we have a lab at an innovation hub that I'll share in the next slide. And then the secondary target markets, this is going to include more than concrete and lubricants. This is going to include everything that I haven't listed. We are not ignoring these. We just need to partner with the right group or customer. And then with the right partnership, we will certainly drive that forward. So our strategic partnership is with the GEEK, and that is the Graphene Engineering Innovation Center. This is an innovation hub that was formed by the University of Manchester. And again, that is where graphene was discovered in 2004. So there's really erupted a very, very strong ecosystem with a lot of material science expertise there. At the GEEK, they have all of the industrial prototyping machines that we need, all of the characterization devices. So we have a private lab with our own scientists, and this is where we work on different projects that are more confidential to HydroGraph. But importantly, the Geek has their own staff, of which James Baker, pictured here, who does sit on our advisory board, is the CEO of. And this is really important to understand because this has been the dominant place for customers worldwide to go when they want to integrate graphene into their product line. So the Geek staff, and again, this is not HydroGraph's employees, but the actual Geek staff, they have experience working with virtually all of the commercially available graphenes in the world. And all graphenes are a little bit different because we all have different production methods and different feedstocks. So since HydroGraph has arrived at the Geek, we have been awarded virtually every major project. And that is because we are the highest performing. And luckily, the Geek, they're under mandate to use the highest performing material for different projects. And we, again, are extremely lucky to have the patented process that we do. We've been told anecdotally that we are, strongly outperforming our peers. This is something we're very excited about. But I would also just make a note and say, I think with nanomaterials in general, we don't see our competition as other graphene companies because you can often get the best results by blending different graphenes, by blending different carbon materials. So we seek to collaborate with other companies. And again, this is something that we look forward to doing more and more of as we grow. To dive into the commercialization process, so again, the actual application engineering work happens at the Geek. This is data that is often mostly paid for by customers, that is customer driven. We're not just doing science for science sake. This is customer driven work that once we have the data in hand, we of course take to our internal business development team, and then they further grow the pipeline with that data. And of course, once these projects close, it often goes to an industrial scale up. And then of course, we would be looking to sign contracts. So we do have about between 45 and 50 active projects that are ongoing. I would say shy of 10 are probably currently in progress at the Geek, and that's either managed by us or managed by the Geek. But just to point out a few, we have been working with a large automotive company, and this is a global automotive company, one of the top 10, on multiple successful trials for an automotive composite. This has gone extremely well. They came looking for basically a 5% strength improvement. We gave them 25% really on the first shot. And then we're starting to prove that you can recycle this same plastic over and over and actually get an improvement. So this is early data. We want to replicate that data. We will disclose everything, when and if we're able to. Obviously, with all of these conversations, these are under confidentiality agreements, so we're not able to share as much as we would like at this moment, but we will look to update the market as these move down the pipeline. We are also in discussions with major PET producers. We've had fantastic results. We have disclosed a lot of this data for anyone that's looking, and this is with a very, very low loading. This is a massive opportunity that, again, we solve a huge need, not only for lightweighting, but for recyclability, for barrier properties. But because PET, and this would be like your plastic water bottle, because that is FDA approval contingent, we are still in the middle of that process. It is taking a little bit longer, I think, than we initially anticipated. And that's just because graphene is a new material. And there's no company on earth that has FDA approval for that use. We're very confident we will achieve this. But again, there's a little bit more testing required than we were told when we started the project. But all the tests have come back very, very favorably. And it's just a part of the process that we can't, have total oversight on because it's, of course, government affiliated. And then tactical fibers is probably the most exciting one. This is tied to multiple companies, some chemical companies, some defense contractors, mostly military uses, not always. This is very, very fast growing. We have had phenomenal results working with different high performance engineering fibers. And this is something that really only started a few months ago and is scaling rapidly. So this is something that we actually will be providing an update on in the coming weeks. And just one last point there, all of those that I mentioned, those are potentially plus thousands of tons annually. So again, what we do is we produce the highest quality graphene with the lowest cost. And we are, just to clarify that, we are not the lowest cost per ton, but because we are so high performing, you can often use 1/10 the amount of our graphene as compared to other graphenes. And this is really how we are competitive in the market. What we do is we, again, produce identical batches of pristine graphene at industrial scale. I know this is the second time I've repeated that, but this really bears repeating as this is an industry first. It sounds like a simple statement. There is no other company that has been able to achieve this. There's virtually no consistency and there's no purity in the market within the graphene industry. And that is something that is still evident. How we will do this is because we use commodity gases, we will employ a centralized production model. We will do that not only to maintain the security of our IP, but even from an engineering or a cost standpoint, we're effectively building, in essence, a bomb. It is not something that we plan on having adjacent to customers. We will have a large facility with very strict safety protocols where we will be able to manage this internally and, again, maintain the security of our IP, but also have those operational efficiencies that you can really see at scale. We will do so in key geographical regions. We are planning a large facility that we will be announcing in the coming time within North America. We will be planning another in Europe and very likely another in Asia. And as we grow, we will be expanding our capabilities to include formulation and master batching. And all that really means is we're going to make it easy for the customer to use graphene. Not every customer wants to use a powder, so we're going to make different dispersions and basically make it a drop-in solution for them. I'll kind of breeze over this because this is all publicly available. Again, this deck is available for download on our website. Everything that we have is patented. The most important patent would, of course, be the patent that is titled fractal graphene. That is really our explosion synthesis patent. But again, we have a number of others. Reactive graphene is what I'm referring to when I say the graphene derivatives. That's basically adding different functional chemical groups to the graphene so it can bond better with different materials. And there's, again, lots more that are available for viewing online. And to wrap this up, what we have as key catalysts, we have expanded our application development capabilities. We expect to close our first commercial contracts within 2025, and we are constantly expanding our product line, not only to include new customer engagements, but also new graphene materials. And of course, our capital structure is available here and also online. And of course, our investment thesis, we believe, is very strong. We provably have the highest purity. We have consistent quality. We have the greenest footprint in the industry by a very, very large margin. Graphene as a material has truly global reach. We have very strong economics and a significant valuation upside. Thank you.
All right, great job, Kjirstin. We do have lots of questions for you. Let's see how many we can get in with the time we have left. So I want to talk a little bit about, since the company is US based and you are in the US, do you plan to move to a US listing?
Yes, absolutely. I don't think that the CSE is perhaps our best home. So it is our plan to move to NASDAQ or NYSE as soon as we're able. So as we deliver on these milestones that we have over the year, ideally we could achieve this by the end of 2025, but we will do this as soon as we're able.
Wonderful. And talk a little bit more about that. You mentioned you're producing smaller batches right now in Kansas. So what would be your target production capacity by year end of 2025? And maybe how much would it cost to reach that target?
That's a good question. And again, we're lucky that we have the modular unit, so we will be able to scale with customer demand. We're currently producing 10 metric tons in Kansas. That's with one unit. We're now replicating that unit. And the new location that we'll be announcing shortly, which is adjacent to the acetylene supply, that could easily exceed hundreds of tons of annual capacity. And to just give some ballpark figures, I think that fully loaded, if we assume that we're funding all of the units that we have, and we'd have about 15 units in a new building, we're planning on between $10 and $15 million. So it's actually quite cost effective for what that revenue generation would equate to.
Perfect. And 3 questions from our viewer, Junior. 1, who are the major shareholders of HydroGraph, and what percentage does Haywood own and Power One? If you can talk about that.
Sure. So again, the two groups are Haywood and Power One. They're of course different groups. Power One is probably the largest, just because they're a merchant bank. They've come in. Pat DiCapo has come in, as well as his network, and then Haywood, of course, those are brokers that we're dealing with, and that would be David Elliott and Andrew Williams. And I think that we have a pretty wide pool of investors that have funded us at this point, and as we grow, we would be looking more for institutional money.
And what is going to happen with HydroGraph employee count? Is it going to triple in size?
We're quite efficient. I don't know if it will triple. I would certainly like to continue to expand our engineering team, because we are anticipating a very rapid scale up. And I think our commercial team would be continuing to grow.
And at 100 million of revenues, how many employees would you expect?
Honestly, not much more than we have currently. I think that we could probably bring the team to about 30 people.
Okay. And George wants you to expand more to recyclability with PET plastics, if you can talk about that.
Sure. So again, this is newer data. I would like to disclose everything that we've been working on, but really simply what we believe is the mechanism, and this is still unproven, is that because we are more nano in size, we're 20 to 50 nanometers for our lateral particle size. That is more than 1,000 times smaller than most all other graphenes on the market. We believe that with our surface area, we have a nucleating effect. So you can imagine all of these opportunities for that crystallization kinetics to really appear. So what we see as a trend with polycrystalline plastics is that we have that, the reaction happens very quickly and it happens very consistently. And again, I can't say too much more about it, but we do have very strong trends there, and we will release more information as it's available.
And a follow-up question from George asking, how does scale up and automation look for these projects? And will there be additional efficiencies realized when the gases are piped in at your facility?
Yes, I like this question. This is something, of course, we speak about internally a lot. We will have a huge leap forward in efficiency. And this is something we're really looking forward to from, a gas flow perspective, but also, of course, everything is currently computer controlled, but we will be making significant upgrades to that system. And we do plan to implement a lot of automation.
And he asks, what's your vision for the next 2 to 5 years?
Right. So I think, we will have a very large facility within North America, again, adjacent to the acetylene supply. I think that's really going to be the biggest leap forward for this company, because that will show the world that we have theoretically unlimited capacity, because the only bottleneck will be our speed in which we can produce these high purine units, which we're very confident, again, that we can do so rapidly. And as mentioned, I want to be on NASDAQ. And again, this is carefully timed. I don't want to look like we're going too quickly there. But as we are very confident that we will have these customer contracts come through this year, if we time it right, I think this is something that we can achieve quite soon. So that's also very exciting for the company. It will, of course, improve our liquidity. And as we grow, I see us continuing to expand. I see us planning a much larger facility again in Europe, and really growing in our data. Because if you think about what we're tackling now, we're doing kind of the boring stuff. We're looking at, of course, a strong customer need and fantastic revenue potential. But as this company grows and as we will add on more scientists, we will be able to tackle a lot of the really, really high tech work, which is, going to be great margins for the company, but I think just really exciting progress as well.
And Ken wants to know, how many Hyperion systems do you currently have assembled and ready for production?
So we have one of these larger units that produces 10 metric tons. We are building a second of that larger unit, but we have a number of smaller units. I would say 5 smaller ones, and those we use more for research.
And John asks, how many production units will be purchased with the money from the last raise?
Again, complicated question, because as we deliver on our commercial milestones, we will be able to, look at more creative sources for capital. So we don't expect to fund all of these new units with equity capital.
And last question, is your company and balance sheet large enough to bigger customers to be comfortable ordering from you?
That is a good question as well. So this is something that I admittedly think about a lot. I think that our balance sheet is healthy for where we are. We are starting to see we have about $10 million Canadian value of warrants that are in the money. They're starting to come in this year, an equivalent amount that will come in next year. And I think that that's promising. Of course, I think we've shown really significant growth. So I am again confident that that will come in. So our balance sheet is healthy, but I think when we're looking at the really large customers of which we are speaking to, I think that they would prefer that we would have a stronger balance sheet. And again, I think that they would prefer that we have this new facility open. And just to reinforce, we had a change in management only in March of last year. So we have made significant progress since then, but there is still a lot of work ahead of us. And I think that achieving these milestones will be huge for us.
Wonderful. Well, Kjirstin, thank you so much. Great presentation, great work. And we would love to have you on in the near future with some more updates.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
All right, everyone, we'll be right back with our next presenter.